North Eira Minerals is helmed by some luminaries in the mining space. Grenville Thomas, discoverer of the Diavik diamond mine and Canadian Mining Hall of Fame, is a director. Eira Thomas is chair. So what is North Eira Minerals up to? CEO is Ken Armstrong, and you're also interim CEO of Cornish Metals. Ken, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Michael.
You had a big announcement this week in Botswana. What was it, Ken?
Yeah, with North Eira, we announced the acquisition of what we think is a really exceptional regional exploration opportunity to look for gold in the Kraaipan Greenstone Belt, which essentially is 1,400 square kilometers of licenses covering the northern 60 kilometers of the belt. So it's a total regional play in a jurisdiction in Botswana that we think is top tier for mining investment globally, not just in Africa. And with a partner, Rockman Resources, which is a group that we have a long-standing relationship with for a number of decades, really smart group that we really like. So it kind of has all of the pieces that we want to see for a new kind of grassroots gold exploration project where we can kind of go right back to first principles, looking for gold mineralization in a greenstone belt.
Now with North Eira, you've had a lot of your projects looking at Canadian North, I should say, but now you're going to be in Botswana with Kraaipan, and this is an area that your chair has some familiarity with.
Yeah, so Eira joined the company as chair of the board this summer, and as part of that, we took a look at our existing projects in diamonds and lithium in Canada, for which we were really getting very little value, and just looking at where the company is and how do we move forward. And we looked at a number of opportunities, sort of 5 or 6. Some were specific property scale ideas, some were bigger picture ideas, but the opportunity with Rockman was one that we were aware of, and like I mentioned, we like the group, we like the jurisdiction, and to get the chance to explore on a regional basis an entire belt of rocks that are highly prospective is really tough to find, and particularly in such a good jurisdiction. So we jumped on this one.
Let's step back a bit, talk about Botswana. What are some of the operations that are already there, and what's the jurisdiction like?
Yeah, it's a top tier jurisdiction, as I mentioned. I mean, obviously with Eira's experience with Lucara and the Kraaipan Diamond mine which is in the country. De Beers has been operating, producing diamonds from the early 70s, and there's nickel exploration, iron ore exploration, copper exploration happening in the Botswana copper belt. It's an area where the government appreciates and understands the benefits that our industry can bring. They've seen the benefits of that from diamond mining. I think the best example of that is since diamond mining started, Botswana now has free secondary education for all citizens, free government-funded healthcare, and that is all directly attributable to the benefits that mining has brought the country. And I think there's that appreciation of it, and the desire to see some diversity and diversification of the commodities that are being mined. And we think looking at the Kraaipan is a way to do that.
Speaking about the Kraaipan as well, there's 2 pieces that you said that you're going to bring to actually exploring the space. And I'll start with the first one, and then that was the Kalahari sands. You said that was somehow that made it an underexplored opportunity.
Yeah, so the belt itself is quite a bit longer than the 60 kilometers that are just in Botswana. It extends south into South Africa. In the South African extent of that belt, there's a number of deposits that are known. The biggest is the Cal Gold mine that Harmony Gold operates, over 5 million ounces, which just really shows endowment, and that those rocks, they're not just the right kind of rocks, but they actually do have significant gold mineralization in them. When you get into Botswana, you get into the influence of the Kalahari Desert, and the sand covers about 80% of the Kraaipan belt rocks. About 70% of the country is covered in Kalahari sand. So that's prevents the easy finds, where if there's a deposit sticking out of the ground, you're not going to trip over it because it is covered by the sands. But they're not overly thick, sort of 20 to 40 meters thick, in places up to 70 meters. But we think that in many ways, even globally, becomes the next opportunity, is how do you find new mineral deposits in prospective geology, but undercover, because the easy finds have already happened. And we think now we can bring new tools to that to help see through that sand and make new discoveries.
Speaking of tools, that was the other piece that was mentioned in your corporate deck, talking about the opportunity of the Kraaipan, and then that was also using deep machine learning. What's advanced in there, and how can that actually help you? Well,
yeah, it's a tool that we'll have access to. I don't think it's a magic bullet by any extent. Again, with the group, with Rockman, we have access to a deep machine learning platform that has been used focused on diamond exploration in Botswana and in Canada with success. We think that the attributes of kind of mineralization we're going to look for, with a focus on banded iron formation hosted gold, which would be similar to what the Cal Gold deposit is. We could feed that information into the system and see if we can come up with another tool to help us key in on targets. But we'll also be using things like drone magnetic surveys that have been used in country in Botswana, a highly effective way to collect high resolution magnetic data, which is very important in interpreting rock formations, where they extend to, structure, and really just taking that information to help us go back to first principles. Structure is very important when looking for these gold deposits. There's a major crustal scale break that runs along parallel to the entire belt, very similar to, say, the Dester Porcupine break in the Superior Province, the Larder Lake Cadillac break in the Superior as well. So those sorts of big structures are important, and then looking at the second and third order structures that are associated with those. So all of the ingredients are there, and we think that there's new tools we can use to help move this along quickly.
Talk about the financing agreement that you have for taking on the project.
Yeah, so a fairly simple option. We'll earn 60% in the property by spending $5 million US over 3 years. That 3-year period kind of matches the length of this phase of those licenses, so that's kind of where that comes from. A firm commitment to spend $1 million in the next 12 months. And then once we're done that, there could be the option for us to increase the interest to 80% by completing a preliminary economic assessment of a deposit if we manage to find one.
I want to go back to macro in just a minute, but is there anything else that you want to talk about at North Arrow Minerals outside of Botswana?
Well, obviously we have the Canadian project still. We've got the lithium properties that we've really been kind of working on over the last 18 months or so. Lithium was, as you know, and the audience will know, was very hot for a period there. And we just saw a lot of activity happening in Northern Canada and the Northwest Territories in particular. And we knew where some of these deposits were. So we did, I think, really good work. We got them dressed up. We have 3 projects that are permitted. They're drill ready with spodumene pegmatites on them that have never been drilled. Big width at surface, well mineralized. So we're gonna, 10 years fine though, and I think we can be patient with them. We can wait, if we can find a partner who is willing to fund that first phase of drilling, we'll certainly entertain that. And then it's a similar story with our diamond projects. And we like diamonds, we have a long history with them. We still have our 60% interest in our Nauyat project, which is in Nunavut, and it has this population of beautiful, high value orange and yellow diamonds. We just need the diamond market to turn in our favor, and we can be patient with that and wait for that time to come. So our focus in the near term, for the next 12 to 18 months, is certainly going to be Botswana, and in the background we'll continue to evaluate how best to extract some value from those other properties.
Help me out, Ken. Let's talk about what's happening in the junior space right now. So we've had record high gold prices that have happened, several consecutive record high gold prices. We've seen some really good cash that has been by the major miners that have come out. Still, it's quite a tough market for the juniors right now, despite what we've seen with metal prices.
Absolutely, but it always feels like it's a tough market. It seems, but I think you'll get a lot of different opinions about why. There's a lot of companies. There's been, particularly I think in the Canadian market, there's been competition. And, that was fairly short-lived, but with cannabis stocks, with cryptocurrency stocks, tech, there's more avenues for investors who are interested in the high-risk sort of venture capital type investments. There's more competition for those investments, so we face that. The best way to address that and fix it would be with some discoveries that make investors money, and I think that if we can see that happen, maybe with some more M&A activity as some of the more advanced junior one asset companies, if they get bought out by operators, then we could see some of those profits invested back further down the chain into the earlier stage discovery type projects. And that would be the ideal path, I think, forward here. Just try and see that turn a little bit.
How is the sector looking right now in terms of investment right now? Is this going to be, are we going to see a very volatile sector? For instance, people talk about the incentive price for copper projects, for instance, as well.
Yeah, I think it does remain tough. The investment is is there. I think it can be quite specific to management groups, to opportunities, to jurisdiction. And I think that's incumbent then on management teams to put together a compelling narrative around what the investment opportunity is, and that I think is really the path forward. Seeing other narratives just around critical metals and critical minerals and so on, and that to some degree becomes helpful, but at the same time, when whatever it is, 30 odd elements are on different countries' critical metals list, it does kind of muddy the waters a little bit as well. And some of those commodities are still relatively, I think I would call them immature compared to copper, say, or gold markets where it's really, the fundamentals are far better understood.
Now, you're the CEO of North Arrow. You're easing out of Cornish Metals, where you are interim CEO. Cornish Metals has got a critical minerals focus, and then that's also its flagship project is in the UK. Talk about the critical minerals project. Talk about the critical minerals sector right now, and when we're kind of going to be seeing a turnaround, or what people are saying in terms of what could be a turnaround. So there's obviously been disappointing sales that have happened with electric vehicles. We've seen lithium prices are down about 80% year to date. When does the sector turn around? When does it get bullish again?
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. I am as you know, my time with Cornish Metals won't end. I'll be staying on as a director. I was sort of director. I mean, really, if you go back far enough, Cornish was a company called Strombo that spun North Arrow out originally. So there's actually a tie to the two companies if you go back far enough. But it's a tin project in Cornwall, the South Crofty mine that we're looking to put back into production. It is a critical metal, kind of a unique one because it's necessary in anything electrical, anything that has a motherboard or any kind of electrical connections. Tin is needed for lead-free solder. And that's what's really driving the demand there. And Cornwall is a great place to be looking. It's one of the three major sort of regions of the world where there's been significant historic tin production. There's no current tin production there, but the mineralization never ran out. It was just the price of tin dropped away in the mid-1980s. And Crofty, we think, can be a low-cost, high-grade tin producer again. So it's kind of, when thinking about critical metals, it's kind of different because tin is established. Traditional uses haven't gone away. Tin plate as a stabilizer and things like PVC piping and requirement of batteries and so on. It's just sort of this expansion and this drive for electrification that's really pushing the market. Other critical metals, say like lithium, I would call them more immature again. We're sort of finding our way. We know we need lithium. We need it for batteries. We also, though, in North America, for instance, have no capacity to convert lithium into lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, which is actually the feedstock that's required to go into these battery plants that the governments are announcing to create car batteries. So that's sort of, I think, one of the real gaps when you look at sort of the Western or North American space in lithium, that we need to get that conversion capacity built domestically, so that the deposits that we're finding and we're able to find, and North Arrow was able to come up with 3 pretty compelling opportunities in the space that just need to get drilled, but we need a place for that product, that spodumene, which is the lithium mineral we would mine. Where is it going to go to get converted? Right now it has to go to China, and that doesn't quite fit the narrative that we're hearing in the headlines and from our leaders.
Lastly, let's finish with North Arrow. What's your plans? What's the milestones over the next 12 months?
Focused on Botswana, as we mentioned. Obviously, get the current financing closed, and then look forward to putting together a plan. We won't have sort of the seasonality that we're used to in exploration, because we are being in Botswana. We can explore pretty much the entirety of the year. So it's going to be active. We have some investment to make right away, and get on the ground, soil sampling, overburden drilling, ultimately in sort of the first quarter next year, with some core drilling of the best targets that we come up with initially. It's going to be a process. It's first principles, as we talked about, but we think it's a really compelling regional scale project that doesn't come along often. So we're looking forward to getting on with it.
Ken, keep us up to date.
Absolutely. Thanks very much. I look forward to doing that.
My name is Michael McRae. You're watching Kitco Mining.